Hello and welcome to BYJU'S. This is the continuation of the geography this week, and this is the third part of the geography this week. In the second video, we discussed about the Golan Heights, and then again we discussed about the Jerusalem, the capital which has been declared by themselves, by Israel, as well as the Palestine. And apart from that, United States President Donald Trump has shifted his embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. And apart from this development, we find that two regions, more specifically the Quneitra crossing and the Nasib Crossing, have been opened. So these are very significant in case of defining the economies of that region and geopolitics of that area. Now the first one is the Quneitra crossing, which is the region which connects Israel through Golan Heights with Syria. And in this region, we find it is meant only for the movement of military. That is, the peacekeeping forces, they can move in these regions. It is a very significant part. And the second part is the Nasib Crossing. So this Nasib Crossing is a crossing which connects Syria with Jordan. And this is very significant in case of transports, more specifically vital in case of transports of economic goods. Now, this Jabbar or the Nasib crossing is very significant in defining the regional economies, and it will help in Syria's transport of goods towards the Arabian countries. Now, this Nasib crossing is very significant not only for Syria but also for the Lebanon. In case of Lebanon, Lebanon is having the only other frontier with Israel, and the relations of Lebanon with the Israel are more strained. So because of that, it doesn't usage of the passage there. The opening up of the passage here, which we call it as the Nasib crossing, allows the goods from the Lebanon to enter into Syria, and from Syria to Jordan, and from Jordan again it make an access towards the Arabian countries, where it will help in boosting the economies of the Lebanons and also Syria. So it means that it redefines the regional economies in case of Syria and also in case of the Lebanon. The second topic is fracking, which is also referred as hydraulic fracturing, and this is a method which is used to extract the shale oil or the gases. Now this is in the news because from 2011 the fracking or hydraulic fracturing has been stopped in UK, and recently United Kingdom has provided licenses for fracking here. Around 100 licenses have been awarded for the companies to persuade the fracking, in spite of opposition from the environmentalists, and there were huge protests which were seen in UK. So in spite of all these protests and the opposition from the environmentalists, UK decided to persuade with the fracking. Now, before understanding the fracking technology, we'll try to understand what is the conventional and unconventional crude oil or gases. The conventional oil or the conventional gases are the resources which are found at the depth of around 1500 meters. And the unconventional crude oil or the gases are the resources which are found at the depth of 2500 meters to 5000 meters inside the earth. And it is very difficult in case of extraction of the crude oil which are found at the great depth, which are referred as unconventional crude oil or the gases. The unconventional crude oil or the gases, they exist in the earth in the form of coal bed methane. Coal bed methane. They exist in the form of coal mine methane. They exist in the form of shale gas, and they exist in the form of the tight gases. And the process of extraction of these unconventional gas is also quite different from the conventional sources. In case of conventional extraction or in case of conventional gases, the extraction is done very simply, where the drilling is done vertically and the accumulation of the gases or the crude oil is here, which can be extracted by just making a vertical drilling. In case of unconventional crude oil gas drilling, there is a method of drilling vertically. After that, horizontal drilling is also necessity. So it means that in case of unconventional drilling, vertical drilling is followed by horizontal drilling. So that makes it very difficult to extract the resources which are referred as unconventional crude oil or the gases. The factors which makes the shale gas production economically viable in the recent times are, more specifically, development in the technology, that is advancement in case of technology, where we find a very well developed technology for horizontal drilling is seen. So it means that after making a vertical drilling, a well developed technology is there where we can find the horizontal drilling is done beneath the earth at the depths where the unconventional gas resources or the shale gases are found. The second one is a development of what we call it as the fracking method. This fracking is also referred as hydraulic fracturing. And the third significant is the prices of the natural gases. In the global market, we find the prices of the natural gases are increasing tremendously. So because of that, it becomes very significant, or it becomes economically viable for going towards the shale gas. The method used for extraction of the shale gas is referred as fracking. And in the process of fracking, water, sand and the chemicals are injected into the well, and this is with high pressure. So high pressurized water, sand and chemicals are injected first through this vertical pipe, then again horizontal pipes are there, or horizontal drillings are there, and these makes the fissures to open more, and where we find accumulation of shale gas or the oil takes place in this region. And after that, this gas flows out through the well. So this aspect of extracting of the shale gas is referred as hydraulic fracturing, that is, the rocks are fractured, and it is most commonly referred as the process called as fracking. The impact of fracking, it has got both impacts. In case of advantage, that is positive impacts, US, by using the technology of fracking, it has become self-sufficient in case of the gas and the oil resources. Initially, it was an exporter of the crude oil. With the fracking, now it has become an exporter of the crude oil, more specifically the shale gas. This is one of the advantage which can make an impact on the economies of the countries where they become self-sufficient in case of crude oil, which is very, very vital in case of the present scenarios. Apart from the positive impacts of the fracking, we find the negative impacts are also there, which are of the great cause of concern in case of environmental degradation in some of the countries. So because of which many protesters are protesting against the fracking. More specifically, the environmentalists are opposing the fracking. And in that case, James Hansen, who is referred as the father of climate science, has said that this fracking is very much serious in concern regarding making an impact on the environment, and it will also concern in case of creating more amount of the environmental disaster in the regions. Now, what are the impacts or the negative impacts of the fracking? The first one is it uses much amount of water. So when the water is used, many countries in the world where there is a scarcity of water is seen, more specifically the fresh water. And when the fracking technology uses the water, it will create more pressure in the available water resources in many countries. The second aspect is when the pressurized water is drilled with the chemicals and the sand, these chemicals and the sand which are drilled deep inside the earth are responsible for contaminating the groundwater. So pollution of groundwater takes place in this region. And the third and very significant aspect of this fracking is when the high pressurized water and chemicals, when they are injected inside the earth, they are responsible for creating the anthropogenic factors, which we call it as the human induced earthquakes. So they are responsible for creating what we call it as an induced earthquake. Remember, earthquake can be natural in process and it can be anthropogenic, where human beings are involved in creating the earthquakes. So the fracking is responsible for creating induced earthquake, that is human involved earthquake or anthropogenic factor for the earthquake. Now this induced earthquakes are also very significant in case of defining the disaster parameters. The reason is, in the year 2018, they found that the induced earthquakes of magnitude 7 have been recorded, which is again a cause of a concern in case of the induced earthquakes. Now the fracking in India. In India, we find that crude oil or the petroleum or the gas we import from Arabian countries. So it is very significant in case of India if we can develop our own aspects in case of the crude oil extraction, more specifically the shale gas. Again, in case of India also, we find the issues are there, like environmentalists who protest against the fracking, and also legal hurdles are there in persuading the fracking. And in case of India, as it is the second populous country in the world, and around 50% of the population depends on agriculture. So agriculture is the backbone of Indian economy. And in case of India, it is also said that this agriculture is nothing but it is a gambling of the monsoon. So it means that there is a dearth or shortage of the groundwater in case of India. Many reports and many findings also suggested that water crisis is something which is a very serious factor in case of India, in case of agriculture, in case of availability of water for the common usage also. So in this case, definitely there will be an opposition from the social activists or the environmentalists regarding the usage of water for the fracking. And apart from that, the induced earthquakes are not to be neglected in case of India. Then also a technology which has to be developed. So these are some of the hurdles which can be seen in the developing the fracking. But apart from all these, a positive step is also seen, which is reflected in the policy of the Indian government. The first one is the policy on the shale gas in the year 2013, in which it has made a permit to national oil companies to engage in the fracking. So on the basis of that, it made a prospective basins for the phase 1 for the extraction of shale oil and the gas. So these are the states of Assam and Arunachal Pradesh. In case of Gujarat, that is Cambay region. In case of Andhra Pradesh, the Krishna Godavari basin. In case of Tamil Nadu, the Kaveri basin is there. So we find potential sites which are very significant in case of the fracking. A step forward, in the year 2018, more specifically August month. Central government approved the policy and allowed the private and the government players to explore and exploit the unconventional hydrocarbon. So it means that a step forward has been taken in case of India. With this, the Director General of Hydrocarbon has issued the guidelines on environmental during the shale gas extraction. It means that what precautionary measures has to be taken when we make a fracking or when we extract the shale gas or oil. Remember, the shale gas or the shale oils are referred as an unconventional sources of energies or unconventional sources which are found at greater depth, more specifically from 2500 to 5000 meters. The third topic in today's discussion is Sikkim. Now, in the year 2016, Prime Minister Narendra Modi declared this as the first organic state in India. So it means in the year 2016, it was declared as the first organic state in India. And in the month of October 2018, the state received the Future Policy Award. So it means that it is referred as the first organic state in the world, and it acquired that status by defeating 25 countries. And this Future Policy Award is also referred as the Oscar for the best policies. Now, these best policies are in case of promoting agroecology. It means that these are the best laws and policies in promoting agroecology. Now, what is this agroecology? Agroecology is a science, it is a movement, and it is also referred as the practice. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, that is OECD, defines this agroecology as the study of relationship of the agriculture with reference to ecology. So it can be said as the study of interaction between plants, animals, humans, and environment with the agricultural system. And this award, the Future Policy Award, was given by WFC and IFOM with coordination of FAO. Now, what is this WFC and IFOAM? WFC is World Future Council, which is located in Germany, more specifically in Hamburg. And this council is very significant in case of promoting the organic farming. It speaks on behalf of policy solutions that serves the interest of future generation. And this council was formed in the year 2007 by Jacob von Uexkll. And he is the person who is also referred as the founder of Alternative Nobel Prize. This Alternative Nobel Prize is also called as Right to Livelihood Award. The second one is IFOAM. It stands for International Federation of Organic Agricultural Movement. It is also located in Germany and more specifically in case of Bonn. So these are the two institutions which help in promoting the best agricultural practices, more specifically concerned with organic farming. What is this organic farming? Organic farming is a type of or the practice of farming where we find it sustains the soil health, ecosystem, and the people. So it means that it depends on ecological process, biodiversity, and the cycles which are adopted for the local conditions. So in general, we can say this as a sustainable practice of agriculture, or it is also referred as sustainable agriculture. And this organic farming was introduced by Sir Albert Howard, and he is referred as the father of organic farming in the world. Now, what are the significant components which make it as a sustainable farming practices, which are referred as the components of organic farming? In any practice or in any agricultural practices, there should be an ideal ratio of carbon and nitrogen with the macro and micronutrients are very much significant. Now, in case of the components of organic farming, something called as vermicompost, and this vermicompost is formed by using the microorganisms and also organisms more specifically called as the earthworms. And these earthworms, they have the tendency of changing the soil chemical composition. So because of its capacity of changing the soil composition and increasing the nutrient capacity of the soils, these earthworms, which plays a very dominant role in creating the vermicompost, are also referred as ecosystem engineers. The second important aspect of the organic farming is the crop rotation. Now, to maintain the nutrients, more specifically the nitrogen and nutrients in the crops, it is very significant to rotate the crops. So when we talk about the rotation of the crops are rotated as the leguminous plants. After harvesting leguminous plants, preferable crop is non-leguminous. So by which the nitrogen composition of soil is maintained by changing the crops. So this process of planting or cropping a leguminous followed by non-leguminous is referred as the crop rotation. The third one is the biological management. So it is the control of the pest and the disease in the agricultural crops by using the organisms. It is also very significant because here in case of organic farming, rather than using the pesticides, the pests and the diseases are controlled by introducing the organisms. So by which the soil fertility is sustained, the nutrient of the soil is sustained. It doesn't impact on the biodiversity also. In organic farming, even the animal husbandry is also very significant because it provides the manure for the crops. Now, to protect these animals or the livestock resources, government has made very significant steps in preserving the natural breeds of animals or the livestock resources. So that's the reason why they have started a mission in the year 2015 and 16 to protect and preserve the natural breeds of the animals or the livestock resources, which is referred as the Rashtriya Gokul Mission. Apart from this, again, there is usage of fertilizers to enhance the nutrient quality of the soils. But in case of organic farming, biofertilizers are used rather than using the chemical fertilizers. Biofertilizers are used. Now, in case of biofertilizers, more specifically, common biofertilizers are rhizobium, azotobacter, which are considered as some of the common biofertilizers which are used in agricultural crops to enhance the fertility of the soil. So in general, by using the vermicompost, green leaf manures, crop rotation, biological management, that is pest control and disease control by using the insects, where we won't use any pesticides, which doesn't make any impact on the biodiversity and the fertility of the soil. Then using the animal husbandry, then biofertilizers. This agricultural land can be sustained for next generation and generation after generation also. So that's why this organic farming is seen as one of the major breakthrough in developing the agriculture as the sustainable agriculture, not only in case of countries like India, in case of developed countries also. Because when you talk about the organic farming in case of India, when we talk about the land utilization, much of the land which is devoted for agriculture is freezed out. It means that land can't be converted from other usages to the agricultural areas. And much of the agricultural land is losing its fertility. It means that due to over irrigation, due to unscientific methods of agriculture, the soil or the agricultural land is losing its sustainability as the agricultural area. So in this view or in this perspectives, organic farming is very significant in case of India, which can convert the agricultural practices into sustainable agriculture, where we will also reap the benefit and the next generation can also sustain the benefit of agriculture, which also follows the principle of sustainable development goals of United Nations. The organic farming in India. Now, when we talk about India, more than 30% of the organic producers in the world are found in India, which makes it to 2.7 million organic producers or the farmers who pursued the organic farming in the world. Now, the land which is devoted for organic farming in India, it makes around 2.59% of the total area of the organic farming in the world. So it means that still much scope is there for developing the organic farming in India. To develop this organic farming, as the agriculture is a state subject, apart from the national policies, the state government have also involved in making the policies which can help in sustaining the organic farming in India. Many states have developed their own state organic policies. But in the year 2005, organic farming policy was framed by Ministry of Agriculture, that is Department of Agriculture and Cooperation, to promote the agriculture, that is more specifically organic farming in case of India. Now, the programs to promote the organic farming in India. The first one is the National Mission for Sustainable Agriculture, NMSA. This NMSA is a part of what we call it as the National Action Plan for Climate Change, which was devised in the year 2008, which consisted of the 8 goals. Among these 8 goals, one is referred as NMSA, that is a National Mission for Sustainable Agriculture. Now, the second program to promote the organic farming is Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Yojana, which was started in the 11th plan. And in the year 2017, this Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Yojana was restructured by adding what we call it as the Raftar, that is remunerative approaches for agriculture and allied sector rejuvenation. So this program will be continued till 2019 and 20. So it has started from 2017 and 18 and it will be continued till 2019 and 2020. It will also promote the organic farming in case of India. The third program to promote the organic farming in India is the Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana, which is referred as a cluster approach or a group approach. And in this case, the funding pattern is also very significant. In case of the 8 northeastern states and the 3 hill states, that is Jammu Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand, we find that the sharing between the center and the state is 90:10. That is 90% is shared by center and 10% is by the state. And in case of union territories, 100% is contributed from the center. And in the remaining states, it is 60-40. Now, since 2018, in case of Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana, various models have been introduced in organic farming, like zero budget natural farming. It includes Vedic farming, natural farming. So it means that many models have been introduced in promoting what we call it as the organic farming under Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Yojana. And as this agriculture is a state subject, the states have flexibility to adopt any of the model to persuade the organic farming. Apart from these three, we have something called as Mission Organic Value Chain Development for the Northeastern region, which has the main components, that is value chain products, value chain processing, value chain marketing, and value chain support agencies. So this is the program for the Northeastern regions. These are some of the programmings which supports the organic farming in India, which is referred as a sustainable farming method in case of India. Now you can expect the questions in the mains, something like, in case of India, it is not the development of agriculture, but the sustainable agriculture is the key for the problems of the India. So it means it emphasizes on the sustainable agricultural practices. The fourth topic is Alfonso mangoes. Locally, they are also referred as the Hapus mangoes. They received the GI tag, geographical indicator tag. And these Alfonso mangoes which received the geographical tags are the 325th. The first product to receive the GI tag, that is geographical indication tag, was Darjeeling tea in the year 2004. Now, what are these geographical indicator tags and what is the significance of these tags? These geographical indicator tags are agricultural, natural, or manufactured products. It means agricultural, natural, or manufactured products which originates from a defined geographical territory. It means they are confined to geographical territory, geographical regions where they are grown. And this makes the assurance of the quality and uniqueness, that is a distinctness from the other products or the other crops. And this benefits the rural economy. It means that it provides employment opportunities for the rural artisans. It helps in promoting economical basis by increasing the tourism in that region. So it means that it enhances the rural economy. Now, in case of Alfonso mangoes, so these are the mangoes which got the GI tag. These mangoes are grown in the western coasts or in the 5 districts of Maharashtra, more specifically Palghar, Thane, Raigad, Ratnagiri, and Sindhudurg. So these are the coastal districts of Maharashtra where we find the best quality of Alfonsos are seen. Now, to protect these, government had made a significant step by providing logo and the slogan for the GI or geographical indicator crops. So this year they have developed a logo also and a tagline which is called as Invaluable Treasure of Incredible India. So this logo is very significant because it creates awareness about intellectual property rights in country. So GI or geographical indicator slogan and a GI tag is very significant for creating intellectual property rights in the country. The fifth topic in the discussion is the Ganymede. This is a satellite of Jupiter, and Jupiter is the largest planet of our solar system. This Ganymede was discovered in the year 1610 by Galileo, and this Ganymede is in the news because it provided the evidence of strike-slip, the same type of rock movements which are seen on the Earth's surfaces. Strike-slip is nothing but the horizontal movement of the rock stratas or the plates, which is more seen in case of the Earth's surfaces. And the best example of the strike-slip fault in case of the Earth is the San Andreas in the west coast of Northern America. Now, the missions to Ganymede were Pioneer 10, Voyagers, Galileo, and the New Horizon. So these are the missions to study the Ganymede. And when you talk about the Ganymede, this is the only planet in the solar system which provides an evidence of magnetic field around its surrounding, and it also has shown a significant evidence of the strike fault. This Ganymede orbits Jupiter in 7.16 days, and the surface temperature of the Ganymede is minus 163 degrees centigrade. And this strike-slip fault is very significant because it is a key to understand Europa. Europa is one more satellite of the Jupiter. So Jupiter is a planet which is having the highest number of satellites in the solar system. And Ganymede is the largest satellite in the solar system, and it is the largest satellite of the Jupiter also. Now, this Europa is very significant because Europa is considered as the likely places in the solar system to hold life outside the Earth. And the strike-slip fault in Ganymede gives an idea, or it provides an information about the strike-slip faults or the developments which are taking place in case of the Europa. It means that Europa or the satellite Europa is active tectonically, and in case of Ganymede we don't find the tectonic activities. It means that the tectonic activities of the past have been seen in case of Ganymede. So it means that at present Ganymede is not tectonically active, but we find, or the researchers have found, around 9 strike slips in case of Ganymede. So we can say that the 9 strike slip evidences are seen in case of Ganymede. For example, the Kushar sulcus and the Tiamat sulcus. So these are the 2 stratas which are moving horizontally opposite to each other. So such type of movements are referred as the strike slip movements. So in case of Ganymede, we find the evidences of the horizontal movement of the stratas, which is same as in case of Earth surfaces, which we refer it as the strike slip faults. In geography, fault is nothing but breaking up of the rock in general. Now the Ganymede's interior is bit complex. It consists of the frozen shell and below that ocean of liquid water. So here we find the ocean of liquid water. Then this is heated by the frictional stress caused by the tidal forces of the Jupiter. So the tidal forces of Jupiter creates an impact which is responsible for creating the friction. And the liquid water which may be, or which provides the necessary environment for the life, is seen in case of Ganymede, which may be the second probable aspect after the Europa. So it means chances are seen in case of Ganymede also after Europa for the life to exist apart from the Earth or outside the Earth. And the ice shell protect the water from radiation. Apart from these 3, the core of the Ganymede consists of the complex entities dominated by iron core. So this iron, as it rotates along with the satellite, this creates a mechanism called as a dynamo mechanism. So this dynamo mechanism is responsible for creating the magnetic surfaces along or around the Ganymede. So the Ganymede satellite is the only satellite in the solar system which consists of the magnetic radiations or the magnetic circle around its exterior. And this magnetic circle gives an evidences of the lights which we call it as aurora, the same which is seen in case of the Earth's magnetic field also. So Ganymede is a satellite of Jupiter. It is the largest satellite of Jupiter, which has shown the evidences of the strike-slip fault, which can be a key to understand the Europa. And this Ganymede is the only satellite which shows the magnetic circles. Now to understand what is this strike-slip fault, it is same as the seen in case of Earth surfaces. We try to understand what is this phenomenon. Now in case of Earth, the three sources of energies are, one is the energy or the heat which is stored since from the formation of the planet and which has accreted or accumulated over a period of a time and never lost. The second source of heat is the denser substances which tries to move or sink towards the core, which creates a friction, and this friction is responsible for the heat. And the third one is the radioactivity. So radioactivity is also responsible for contributing the heat in the interior of an Earth. So in the interior of an Earth, three sources are there which contributes for the heat generation. And the heat which is generated inside the Earth always tries to escape from the interior of an Earth. And in case of the mechanical division of an Earth, the Earth is divided as the lithosphere, asthenosphere, then we find the core, and in between asthenosphere and the core, this core is also referred as barysphere. So in between asthenosphere and barysphere, we find mesosphere. Now don't confuse this mesosphere with the atmospheric metosphere. In case of structure of atmosphere, there also we find a reference of mesosphere, that is different, and this is also referred as the mesosphere. So the mechanical division of an Earth consists of the lithosphere, which includes the crust plus 80 to 100 kilometers of the mantle. So below this rigid crust and mantle, we find the plastic layer. Again, understand that this plastic is a geological term. In geology, when we say plastic, it is far more rigid than the normal iron or the steel, which are used in day-to-day languages. So it is plastic. Again, it is a geological term. This plastic layer is referred as asthenosphere. So below asthenosphere, mesosphere, and the central portion is called as barysphere. Now the heat which is generated inside the Earth always tries to escape from the interior of an Earth. And here in the asthenosphere, as it is plastic in nature, the heat is escaped in the form of the currents, which we call it as the convection currents. So convection currents are formed in the asthenosphere. So this is some basic introduction about the Earth's mechanical division. Now this interior is attained, or this is explained with a plate tectonic theories. Now this plate tectonic theory is very significant because it explains about the present formation of landforms on the surface of an Earth. Maybe the mountains, maybe the valleys, maybe the plain areas. So it defines the different landforms which are found on the Earth's surfaces. It may be the expansion of an ocean, closing of an ocean, all are seen as a result of the movement of the plates, which we call it as the plate tectonics. So according to this plate tectonics, it says that this lithosphere is broken into the plates. So this lithosphere, which is broken into plates, so these plates, they move on the surfaces of asthenosphere because of the convection currents. And due to these convection currents, we find three types of plate movements are seen. One, where the two plates come close to each other, we refer it as a convergent plate movement. Second one is where the two plates move away from each other, we call it as the divergent plates. And the third one is when the two plates, they just slip each other in the same direction or in the opposite direction, which we refer it as the transforms or conservative faults. Now in all these areas, we find a weak section is created, which is vulnerable for the earthquake also. This type of movement, that is where the horizontal movement is seen, where they slip each other, is referred as the transform or conservative plates. Now, because of the heat which is generated inside the earth, it is also responsible for developing what we call it as the natural earthquakes. So these natural earthquakes are also responsible for creating the faults, that is breaking up of the rock stratas, and they also displace the rock stratas, sometimes horizontally and sometimes vertically also. When there is a horizontal displacement of the rock stratas are there, it doesn't make much impacts. But when there is a vertical movement of rock stratas are there, they are very significant in defining the energies. Now, the horizontal movement of the rock stratas due to earthquakes are also referred as the strike slip. So, the strike slip is a phenomenon where the rock stratas moves horizontally along with the same direction with different velocities, or they traverse with two different directions or in two different directions. The best example of the strike slip fault is what we call it as the San Andreas fault. And in case of San Andreas fault, we find that the Pacific plate is moving in this direction and the North American plate is moving in this direction. So the two plates, one is the ocean plate and one is the continental plate. They are moving in two different directions, which creates a fault strike here, which is referred as the strike fault. And the same type of strike faults are seen on the surface of Ganymede, that is the satellite of Jupiter. Now, the second important point about the Ganymede is it also shows the magnetic field around its surface, like the Earth. Now, the Earth's magnetic field is created due to the phenomenon called as the dynamo effect, or it is also called as self-sustaining dynamo mechanism. Now, in case of Earth, the interior of an Earth, when we talk about the chemical division, it consists of the crust, mantle and the core. Now, this core is subdivided into two parts. One is the outer core and second one is the inner core. Inner core is rigid, it is solid, but the outer core is something which is plastic in nature, or roughly we can say it is non-solid. So this outer core, which is fluid, along with the rotation of an Earth, it also moves as it consists of Nephe, that is nickel, and ferrous. So this liquid which rotates along with the Earth creates a dynamo mechanism. So this dynamo mechanism is responsible for generating the magnetic field around the Earth. So these magnetic fields are also very significant because these magnetic fields protects the Earth from the sunstorms or the high energy charged particles which would have destroyed or wiped the existence of the Earth. So this magnetic field on the Earth's surface is very, very significant for sustaining the biodiversity on the Earth's surface. So the same type of magnetic field is seen in case of Ganymede. So we can say Ganymede is the only satellite in the solar system which has the magnetic field. Now, the last topic of this video is the Elephanta winds. So these Elephanta winds are the strong winds which are southerly, or it is also referred as southeasterly winds. So these are the winds, or they are also referred as the local strong winds, which are seen in the Malabar coast, and more specifically in the month of September or in the month of October. Now this wind is very significant because this marks the end of the southwest monsoon in case of India. Now the southwest monsoon in India is in general from June to September. So this wind, which is referred as an Elephanta winds, when it blows in southeasterly or southerly direction, it marks the end of the southwest monsoon in case of India. Now the southwest monsoon is very significant in case of India because more than 70% of the water requirement is done with the southwest monsoon in case of India. And apart from this, the second point which is needed in case of exams perspective is Indian Meteorological Department have changed the definition of the droughts. Now, they no more use the word droughts. And again, when they classify the rainfall pattern of this year, according to them, in the September 30, 2018, the southwest monsoon ended. And according to Indian Meteorological Department, again, there is a deficiency of 9.6% of the rainfall. So it means that 9.6% deficit rainfall was seen in 2018 in spite of the floods in Kerala, heavy rain in Kerala, heavy rain in case of northeastern part of India and the northern parts also. And according to Indian Meteorological Department, this is for the 5th consecutive year we find the deficiency of rain is seen in India. They have used the different parameters to define as the droughts. So now, since from 2016, they don't use the term drought, but in place of that, they use the term called as deficit year or deficient year and the large deficient year. Now, in case of any areas where there is a rainfall deficiency of more than 10% of the long period average recorded in that region, and if this deficiency of air, if it extends to 20 to 40% of the country's geographical area, then that year is referred as deficient year. Initially, this was referred as All India drought. Now, this All India drought is not used by Indian Meteorological Department. Instead of that, they declare that as a deficient year. Now, if the same impact, that is rainfall deficiency of more than 10% and the spatial extent, if the geographical area covered is more than 40% of the area of the India, then instead of declaring that as an all India severe drought, the Indian Meteorological Department classifies that as a large deficient year. So these are some of the definitions which have been added or used by Indian Meteorological Department, because every time we find changes have been introduced in case of Indian Meteorological Department. So always you should update with the different definitions, the criteria which are used to define the phenomena. It may be drought, it may be precipitation patterns, or it may be any meteorological factor which defines or which governs the socio-economic parameters of Indian agriculture or economical perspective. So by this we end this session. Thank you.